Let's take a look at how easy it is to create a Jeopardy game for your class. You can even make an assignment for the class to create Jeopardy games or other game shows for each other. It works very well as an independent assignment or a team project. First, you'll need to explain how your game works for those who might not be familiar with the one you choose. So you'll need some kind of slide or tutorial telling people what they're supposed to do. Select your category and difficulty, click the host for the answer, and then click home to return to the board. So let's see how this would work. So I'm going to select email messages for 200. And it brings me to a slide that has my question on it, the most important part of the message. That would be the subject line. I'm going to click the host for the answer. And here's my answer. And I'm going to click this home icon here to take me back to the board where I can select a different question. And host for the answer. And then back to the board. This is super easy to do, so let's go back to PowerPoint and see how we make this magic happen. So before we get started, let's take a look at some keyboard and mouse combinations that are going to make our work a lot easier. First, you press and hold the Control key on the keyboard as you click an item, and it lets you select more than one thing at a time. For a Mac, it's Command. The other keyboard combination is the Control or Command key as you click the D key on the keyboard, and that duplicates things. It's a much faster way instead of copying and pasting. So let's get started. So my first step here is to create the first column of these boxes. Just simple shapes, drop in a rectangle. Remember, you can always resize or recolor as you need. So I've already got one created for my first column, emails, and then a box for 200, 400, 600, 800, and 1,000. So I have all of these first boxes created. So I'm going to select them all and just make sure that they are evenly spaced. I'm going to align, distribute them vertically. And you can see a couple of them nudged to just make sure that everything is where it needs to be and it looks nice and neat. Okay, so quick way to select all of them, as you saw, was just click up here in an empty area and just drag through. Okay, click and drag. So now here is where my Control D comes into play. I'm going to press the Control key on the keyboard and hold it down as I press the D key on the keyboard. And you can see it duplicated the whole thing. And so I'm just going to grab and move it to the side and then dupe again. Dupe, dupe, and dupe. And you notice that after I moved that first one, PowerPoint was smart enough to know what was going on here, and it lined the other ones up. Now all I have to do is change these categories up at the top to the learning objectives that I have taken from my book. So I'm going to pull in my learning objectives that I just copied out of the front page of my text. So you can see I have 5 learning objectives in this particular chapter, and I'm obviously going to shorten them down a little bit when I make my headings. So you can see that I have updated the top row with all of the headings. Now if you decide that you want to change colors after you've already created them, this is where the Control click comes into play. I'm going to hold down the Control key on my keyboard, and you can see my mouse pointer has changed just a little bit. I'm going to click the first box at the top, and you can see how it's allowing me to select more than one thing at a time. And at this point I can make whatever changes that I want to these particular boxes, and it takes care of them all at once. Now that we have our board created, let's take a look at creating the slides that have our questions and answers on them. So you'll notice that I already have some slides over here in the pane, and they're clearly labeled in the title what the question is and the point value for each one, and that's going to be important later on when I'm creating my links. And then down here I have these two answers that I used when I did the demo at the beginning of the video. Here we are going to use our Control D once again. Just make sure you don't have anything selected in your slide and you just have the slide frame selected out here. And again, hold down the Control key and press D, and you'll notice that it duplicates the slide as well. Once I have the slide created, I'm going to come up here and update this and make this for the 600, and then change the answer text in here. Now keep in mind, when you use that duplicate command over here, it is also duplicating this image along with the hyperlink that's already set for it. So definitely don't go crazy and start using that Control D and make a bunch of slides, because you definitely want to make your end job easier by having this all set up and the hyperlinks created before you go duping all over the place. So let's take a look now at how we actually create these hyperlinks. So I'm back here at my main game board. I'm going to select the next box down here and make sure that you select the entire box and not the text inside of it. I'm going to right click and select link. And here we have a pop-up box. If this button is automatically depressed, and it usually is the first time you click it, just select place in this document. And remember when I told you it was important to have those titles of the slides clearly labeled? Here's where it comes into play. I'm going to select emails for 600 and then OK. And then I'm going to go down to that slide where the emails for 600 are. I'm going to select my little game show host here and edit the link and go for 600 answer and OK. And now he is set for the 600 answer. So let's take a look at how this is going to work. Emails for 600. It is going to my 600. I'm clicking my game show host. And then my answer. I'm back home. And all of my hyperlinks worked. So now all you have to do is figure out what kind of assets that you want to use to symbolize how to get the answer and how to return home, and start creating your slides with your questions and answers. Now remember, this is PowerPoint, so there's no reason that those slides have to have text on them. You can use images on the slides as well and have people identify whatever it is that you want them to identify. These techniques work in Google Slides, in PowerPoint, and in Keynote. And don't forget those handy new keyboard combinations that we just learned. You can use them in a lot of different places. Control-click to select more than one thing, and Control-D to duplicate instead of copy-paste. So get to creating. Remember, Keynote, Google Slides, PowerPoint, these techniques work in all three.